Hey peeps, if you're looking to do a startup in the education space or you're a young mom looking to come back and do something of your own, then you've come to the right place. So with me on the show today is a mompreneur, Tejal Bajla. Hey Tejal.
Hi Chetna.
How are you? And
Good,
thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for this. I really appreciate it.
So tell me, you're doing this really exciting, running this really exciting company called Brainsmith. You did an MBA, you worked in the banking sector, and then you came back and started this. So tell us about your journey.
This company was born out of my own experience with my own child. So I quit a banking career with Morgan Stanley when I had Arman, my firstborn. And I decided to be a stay-at-home mom then because doing 12 hours a day literally did not make any sense. I just didn't have the heart to leave him and go. And the only thing I decided very, very strongly was if I'm going to raise him, I'm going to raise him in the best possible way that I can, which means that I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to make things right. Those early years is when I read a lot of books, I did a lot of research, like any new anxious mom would. And I chanced upon this really interesting book called How to Multiply Your Baby's Intelligence. And I think that was the beginning of the whole journey. Reading that book then led to a few courses at Glenn Doman's Institute in Philadelphia. I came back and I started practicing all these amazing methods of early brain development with my son. And I began to realize that, these little babies who we think are only meant to be fed and cleaned and put to bed are actually capable of absorbing much more than what we think. So contrary to popular belief, those early years are the best years for mums to inculcate, whatever they want in their children. So essentially it is the genesis of a genius, the first 6 years. So, in this whole process, I created a lot of stimulus material for my son, be it flashcards and other things. Every time he'd go out to friends or to play school and things like that, I'd start getting feedback saying, there's something about your son. I don't know what it is, but are you putting him on a program? Are you doing something special with him? And that's when I started sharing my inputs with other mothers. And they all loved it. And then I said, hey, why not make a business of this? And that's how Brainsmith was born. So luckily, I also met my co-founder Akshay Jalan, and we discussed over various coffees that our idea was in sync. And he actually helps me manage the entire operations day-to-day of Brainsmith, which is a huge help as a mompreneur, right? Because it allows me flexibility then to manage strategy, new product design, brand building, and a whole host of things.
So Tejal, I'm sure this wasn't all easy.
Not at all.
So tell me some of the challenges that you faced when you did this.
So I think the biggest challenge was getting back after 3 years of being a stay-at-home parent, right? Just leaving my child in the hands of a trusted caregiver when you've been there in the early days, watching every move was almost unnerving. The second biggest challenge was that of, people taking you seriously because very often they think, once you're a mom, they actually think your priorities are so skewed, nobody wants to take you seriously. So establishing that credibility that I mean business was another very, very, very big challenge.
Wow. So tell me, if there are some moms, young moms watching the show and saying, how do we start off? How do we do what you've done? What's the advice you want to give them?
But I think the first thing I'd like to add, and I think that was a mistake I made, is waiting for that opportune time. There is no time to get back, which is the perfect time. You will find rhythm, right? You will find a way that your baby will manage. You will find a way to sort of manage around it. So there's really no perfect timing. Perfect timing is when you are ready to make it happen.
Want to do it,
Yeah. The other thing is, be happy. So do what makes you happy because happy mothers, I think, make the best mothers.
Yeah. So if a startup makes you happy, if
do
your
it.
hobby makes you happy,
just
go ahead.
Pursue it, And also I think it's not the quality, it's not the quantity of time that really matters. It is the quality of time that you spend with your child.
So Tejal, this mother and child space, especially with really, really young children, seems to be very exciting at the moment. There's so much happening out there. So for an entrepreneur looking at that space and wondering what part of that space they can exploit, what would you like to say to them?
Having been in this space for a while now, I've realized that this whole mother and child space has become increasingly dynamic. Parents are very well informed. So, there's so much digital content available. The amount of spends that parents are making is only going to multiply for these little ones. If I can talk about the education space per se, the early education space, I mean, that industry itself is sort of estimated at about $4 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's very, very unorganized, right? There are people doing a lot of work in different pockets, but there's really not a consolidated effort that is happening here. So I think for anyone who wants to enter this space, there are lots of options, be it personal care, food, early education, advice portals. Mothers are constantly, willing to grab whatever
comes
there is to offer.
Yeah. So Tejal, tell me, from being a banker to a mom and now a mompreneur, what have been some of the important lessons you've learned during this journey?
Wow, they've learned so many, but I'll talk about a few. I think for entrepreneurs especially, and people who are returning after a while, one of the things I learned was it's important to think big, but start small. Like if you have huge costs, you're going to actually chase numbers over creativity. And I think the earlier days is where you really need to spend a lot of time thinking through the project, learning on the curve, to make mistakes, to allow you to grapple with things until you sort of get into rhythm. And then you can go all out. So the other thing is, it's great to have all these great ideas, fancy thoughts, but how you deliver it is really, really what matters. And that's what is cutting edge.
Yeah, and down to the last detail. I think being a mom must have helped you get
Absolutely, like attention to detail is so important. Another thing that I'd like to add is that, word of mouth, like good word of mouth, customer delight is so important, because I really believe that your future consumers are actually going to come out of the past experiences of your old customers, right?
So tell me, running this now for over a year, how has this changed you?
The last 3 years have been life-altering, if I could say. Ever since my child, a lot has changed. And then with my second baby, Brainsmith. So the first thing I've learned, especially being a mother, is patience. I used to be this type A girl who was always in charge and control of everything. I've almost become relaxed. I've learned to realize that, there are certain things that you can control and certain things you can't. With 1 year of a startup, I have learned accountability. And responsibility, because it's no longer about sipping that, relaxed cup of coffee and writing a really nice mail. You've got to make things happen even if you have a wailing child. And I think that is what has changed. Finding a method in the madness and making it happen no matter what is what has changed.
Take us through some of the exciting, innovative ideas that you had, the product idea that you started with. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. First product we launched at Brainsmith was something called as quantum cards. So these cards are actually, the whole market is flooded with flashcards, right? So these are not your regular flashcards. So these are encyclopedic knowledge flashcards, as I'd like to call them. If you see, each card is 11 by 11 inch. They're on a clear white background. This topic that we have is impressionist paintings. So when you say, so you have like a clear picture on the front, and then you have detailed information about that art
so
at the
the
back.
mom can sound like a genius.
Absolutely. Now, under quantum cards, we've created 60 editions. I mean, this is another one that I can show you, which is like for slightly younger kids, which is Indian musical instruments. And we have, so each of this image that you see here is first hand illustrated and then digitized. The reason we do that is because we want the child to be able to identify with the actual object. What happens by using these flashcards is, a lot of people don't actually know why they use them. So they're not just about teaching or imparting information and knowledge. I mean, of course, knowledge is a byproduct. But essentially what you're doing is you're stimulating the underdeveloped visual and auditory pathway of the child. So everything that we learn about the world is through our eyes and ears and all our other senses. But the most important ones are the visual and the auditory. If you stimulate these two senses well enough earlier on, the child's ability to absorb information through those two pathways becomes very, very heightened, and which is what leads to brain development, right?
Absolutely. So, well-connected neural networks formed really early, I'm sure.
Is really the reason you use these flashcards. So you use these as a tool to help the process of brain development. So we build it. So we have topics like inventors, countries, musical instruments. I mean, a whole host of topics. When we travel, we go to a lot of exhibits. We see what happens in the world. But another thing that I've, sort of been inspired with is my own actual hobbies. I've been a classical vocalist for really, really long, as long as 20 years.
How beautiful.
And, while trying to teach my child the same things, I've failed miserably, right? Because I do not have a methodology by which I can make teaching Hindustani classical music to my child interesting.
Okay.
And that has led to become the basis of my new product line, where we're working with music directors and we're working backwards to see how we can make this space of teaching music early to children really, really exciting and interesting and easy for moms who don't come from that background, because not everyone knows that, but you might want to teach your child that, right?
Oh, that sounds so exciting.
Yeah, and I'm really passionate about it.
Yeah. So tell me, what are some of the other future plans that you have on growth?
So essentially, if I were to sum it in a line, I want to be this one-stop shop that everyone relies on when they, anyone who thinks about unique, differentiated early learning products. I want to be a one-stop shop at Brainsmith.
Wow, I wish you all the luck.
Thank you so much.
And I'm very sure you're going to be on that path already.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Thank you for being with us.
Thanks. Thank you.
Please click the subscribe button below. Like me at facebook.com/ChetChat101. Follow my Twitter handle, ChetChat101, or at Instagram, ChetChat101. Please leave your comments in the sections below. And if you'd like me to feature any particular college, please let me know. Thank you.